Here I have my friend's 2005, I think, Honda Odyssey. It's leaking antifreeze. He said it's coming off the side of the engine right here. So to me, it seems like it's going to be a water pump, which means it's going to need a timing belt and a complete timing kit. But what I'm going to do right now is just fill up the system with water and we'll pressure test it, see if we can see it leaking from over here. I already see a leak. We got a small puddle here and it's dripping pretty good. To me, it looks like it's coming off the side of the engine. Coming from the wheel well, you can get a better shot of this. You can see the stream coming from somewhere up there. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and call a water pump on this one. We are back with my friend's Honda Odyssey, and we have a complete water pump slash timing belt kit to go ahead and put on it, as well as a few other things. I'm gonna go ahead and change the engine mount right there because we have to remove it anyway. It doesn't cost a lot, and I'm pretty sure it's worn out and it's the original one, so it's gonna get a new engine mount on that side. I could see where I screwed up already because I did not order a new belt. Now this one doesn't look horrible, it still looks decent, but when I'm coming in here to do work like this, just replace it, you know what I mean? And I forgot to order the part, so it's a good thing that belt looks like it's still in decent shape. What else are we gonna do? We're also gonna change the thermostat and the gasket, and he has a oil leak back there coming from like that VTEC solenoid, so we're gonna go ahead and replace the O-rings or the gaskets on that solenoid. And we have a seal for the transmission where the CV shaft goes into the transmission. So I don't know if we're gonna get to that, but let's see if we can. So here we could get a closer look at this. See the oil leak that we got going on back here. So we're actually gonna remove this unit right here and replace any seals or O-rings behind it. So here's a piece off of the car. This is the gasket we're gonna be replacing. And yeah, this thing's pretty flattened out. While I have it off the car, I'm gonna give it a little bit of a cleaning, nothing crazy. I don't have a parts washer, so I'm just gonna wash whatever I can. And I believe there is another gasket between these two pieces right here. They do separate, and I think I have that gasket, so I might open this up. I mean, of course I'm gonna open this up and change that gasket since I have it. But there's another thing. If you look, sorry, I don't got my, I think the flash on my phone has stopped working like permanently, so I can't get any good lighting here. But there's this piece right, damn you, see how frustrating it is having a camera with no light on it? It's something you take for granted, but once it's gone, it's freaking crazy. Right below the piece we just took off, which would go right here, there's another piece right here. You can see it's got two 10mm bolts holding it in place. And this actually pops out, and there's an O-ring behind it, and I have a new O-ring for that. So we're gonna go ahead and get that removed and replace that O-ring as well. Yeah, this sucks because I think I'm gonna have to buy a new phone now. I got the two pieces separated, as you can see, and here goes the inner gasket. And as you can see, we got two brand new gaskets right here. So what I'm going to do now is start cleaning these pieces before I put the new gaskets on it. So here's that part all put back together. I got the new gasket in the center, got the new gasket on top, and as you can see, I cleaned it up a little bit, nothing crazy. I don't have a parts washer, and this thing can easily eat up 10 cans of brake parts cleaner. Alright, so here goes that other piece. You see it sits like that on the engine, and that's the O-ring we're going to be changing. So hopefully you guys can see that back there. That's exactly where it goes, right below the VTEC solenoid. Here was the old O-ring that came off of it. It's feeling pretty brittle, so that wasn't too long before this gives out, if it wasn't already leaking. I don't know if this is leaking. We know this was leaking for sure, but since it sits above this thing, the oil that was coming off of it, you know, is it coming from here or is it coming from here? Who knows? Anyway, it's a good thing that it got changed because, like I said, it's feeling a little crusty. So got the new O-ring on it, and let's cross our fingers that everything works and seals up. So I'm all done with this back here. I don't know if I mentioned before, but I also have to change the thermostat. I probably did. Anyway, I'm not going to touch that right now. I'm actually going to go to the water pump. So I went out and bought that Lio Honda crank socket, you know, that real big heavy socket, in case I needed it for this job. I don't think I will, but you never know. First, I'm going to try my regular mid torque with a standard 19 mil on it. Let's see if it comes off. Came right off. If the mid torque wasn't going to do it, I would have just pulled out the high torque, and that most likely would have gotten it off. But I have seen videos on YouTube of people trying even the high torque, and a standard socket won't cut it. They got to put the LiO socket on the high torque gun in order to get that out. But clearly this one came out, and honestly, like I said, I bought that socket just in case, but I don't do too many of these. But the few times I've had to take off a crank bolt off of a Honda, I've never needed that socket. Usually this gun, the mid torque, can take it off without any issues. So it's a few hours later and I have not made any progress on this van, and that's because I had to run out to the store. Oh, well, first of all, my flash seems to be working again. Technology, am I right? Come on, garbage. Anyway, I got an email from Eastwood saying like 20% off of one item, so I was like, sweet. I wanted to get a set of hammers, but once I got there and I had them in my hand, I was like, it's not what I was expecting. And it's a good thing I did that rather than just buying them online, because I would have been disappointed, you know. So while I was there, if you're in Eastwood, you got to buy something. You cannot leave. It's like going to Harbor Freight. You got to get something. It doesn't matter. You're there. Buy something. You know what I mean? So first of all, I bought this. No, well, first of all, I bought this. We were just talking about a parts washer. And I picked this up because I was there and I saw it in the corner and I was like, you know what? I need a parts washer. I just talked about it. I was like, it's small. It's got a small footprint. I don't have any space in the garage, but I'm sure I could find somewhere to put it. So yeah, there's this, and then I picked up this right here because I don't have a complete set. I have this one right here and I have this one, and it's because I bought them individually. You know, like you're in a pinch, so you just run out to AutoZone, you buy them, and then you overpay for them. But if I were to go out and buy the other 5 sockets individually, it'll cost more than what it costs to just buy the complete set. So that's why I bought this. Why not, right? I'm sure it'll come in hand someday. So that's why I got that. But this, yeah, it's pretty neat. I'm looking forward to using it. Now, the guy at Eastwood told me to not use any harsh chemicals in here, like brake parts cleaner or gasoline or things like that. The pump is designed for like purple power, orange, citrus, and things like that, okay? So that's what I'm gonna use it for. I got the power steering pump out of the way. I had to remove the ECM. Got it sitting right there. And I got the engine mount off of it as well, and it's a good thing I went ahead and ordered a new engine mount, because this one is completely destroyed and it's so easy to flex it back and forth. It isn't doing anything, so I'm really glad I bought a new one. Complete timing cover off of the car. Let's have a better look here. It's hard for you guys to tell, but I can clearly see that the water pump is leaking. Works its way all the way down here and just ends up pulling down here. You can see it wet around this area of the water pump. So right at the bottom. And someone has been in here before, because this belt doesn't look horrible. Alright, so I got the timing marks lined up. You can see right up top, right there, that arrow is matched up with that arrow. And if we come on the sprockets, like I said, someone's been in here already, so they already marked everything with paint marks. So you can see that's number 1 right there. Lines up with this thing. And the same thing back here. There you go. Alright, so timing is lined up. Now I could just go ahead, pull the belt off, and start getting this job done. Okay, so I filled the system up with some water, pressure tested it. Now that we have clear access to the water pump, so we could check it out before we start touching anything. Look at, that's a pretty bad leak we got going on there. I'm not really sure if it's coming out of this bolt hole right here. Let's see if I plug it off, see what happens. Okay, so it's still leaking from the gasket on the water pump. Hope you can see that back there, still pouring out. And if I take my finger off of this, so yeah, the gasket on the water pump has failed. Another thing I noticed is, okay, I have not relieved the tension on the belt right now, but look how loose this belt is. I have not touched it. The belt is still on, it's still tensioned and everything. There is a lot of play in this belt, so much that I could spin this idler pulley right here. Look at that. If this thing had proper tension on it, I would not be able to spin this pulley freely like this. Got the timing belt off of it, and I've already removed and loosened the bolts for the water pump. But I don't want to take it completely off because it's just gonna drop a bomb of antifreeze on the floor. So I just got it cracked open, and I'm just gonna let it drain out here. So while the water pump is draining out, I decided to set up my new parts washer. I just kind of threw it right here because it's the only thing I could think of right now. Here goes the part that I'm going to try cleaning first. It's just a plastic piece, and I'm just going to use a nylon brush. So here goes the condition of it. I just put the bolts in there just for the hell of it. But hit the power right here, and there we go. By the way, this stuff is diluted. I probably put like 50-50 because I think this is a concentrate. So here we go. That did not take long at all, just a few minutes, and it looks like a completely different part. I already went ahead and blew it off with the air gun, and it's looking absolutely fantastic inside and out. I learned very quickly to stay away from the stickers. As you can see, it pretty much almost completely took off this sticker, so I learned a lesson very quickly right there. It doesn't really matter, that's not that important, but now I know, stay away from the stickers. I'm happy with it. It works well. I have one complaint. I think the stream that's coming out of it has a little bit too much force, because if you hit whatever you're working on just at the wrong angle, it's gonna ricochet, and there you go, you got a face full of cleaner. So of course make sure you're wearing your eye protection. But I'm really happy with this. It looks absolutely fantastic. It's gonna allow me to do a cleaner job for my customers, and just overall do a neater, cleaner job, and something to be proud about. And of course the biggest thing here is it was very quick, and I did not waste 2 bottles of brake parts cleaner trying to clean one little piece. So I just finished cleaning the engine mount, and this thing came out like brand new. Looks good. So here's the water pump, and you can see where it was leaking right here, and pretty much all of this right here. And this is that bolt hole that I was covering up with my finger. This is why it looked like it was coming out of the hole, because it was basically the gasket was leaking from right here and making its way into where the bolt would be. So yeah, this thing is done for. Funny is I'm finding like some gunk inside of here. Look at this. I'm not sure what this is. And my flash on my camera is back to not working again. So hopefully you guys can see this. I'm using my headlamp. But I got the mating surface of where the water pump is gonna go nice and clean. Before I put the water pump on it, I'm gonna go ahead and try to clean up some of this mess that's going on here. Alright, so I've gone through 2 bottles of brake parts cleaner. It's not perfect, but it's definitely cleaner than it was before. And I feel okay with putting the water pump back on it. So I got the new water pump installed, as you can see. And nice thing about this thing, using an actual O-ring, or yeah, I guess O-ring type gasket, pressurizes the system immediately. You're not here waiting for silicone to dry or something like that. So everything looks good. It looks like it's holding pressure. I don't see the gauge dropping. And I also went underneath the car and just kept a very close eye on the bottom of the water pump here. And I don't see anything dripping or leaking at all. That's a real benefit to cleaning up down here if it's like real dirty how it was. If you clean up your mess, if you have any potential leaks after you install the new pump, you could actually find them a lot easier. And this is looking pretty good to me. I'm not seeing any drips or anything. I'm gonna let this sit for a few minutes. I'll go in the house and I'll come back in a few minutes and I'll check on it once again. So we're back again, and it's exactly where I left it. I already went underneath the car and checked the water pump once again for any drips, and it still looks completely dry. This is good enough for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the new timing belt on it. Timing belt was kind of loose. It's because this bushing, right, you got the new tensioner right here, or the tensioner arm or pulley. So this bushing goes inside of here. You gotta take it out the old one, put it inside of the new one. Now this thing is supposed to be able to rotate freely, and I couldn't get it out. It was like seized inside of here. I had to put a socket on one end and pretty much knock it through. It was on there pretty tight. You can see all the crap that's on here. So I'm gonna have to clean this up before I slide it into a new one. But yeah, that explains why the belt was loose, because there was so much friction right here. It wouldn't let the pulley move and let the tensioner do its job. So we got to make sure we fix this and that this thing is moving right before we put it on the car. So a quick touch up on the wire wheel, and this thing came out absolutely perfect. And now look at that. If you hold it from here, it still allows the pulley to rotate. Now here's the thing, looking at the old one, if you look inside of here, it looks like there might be some signs of that red wheel bearing grease. I'm not sure if there's supposed to be grease inside of here. So I put just a little bit, oh look, my flash is working again. So I put a little bit of silicone paste on here. If you look inside of there, you can't even see the paste. You can't even see it on here. That's how thin it is, okay? But it did make a difference because it feels like there's more resistance now, and I'm not sure I like it. I mean, it still falls down under its own weight, but it just seems slower. I'm pretty sure that, you know, these are machined surfaces and they are made to have a certain fit. So even something as a super thin layer of grease does affect that. I think I'm gonna go ahead and wipe the grease off, because honestly, the other times I've done this job on these V6s, I don't remember seeing grease inside of here. And it does affect the way this thing moves. It's not as free. I mean, this is a clear example of actually putting grease in here and it causing a failure, because this tensioner could no longer move, and that's what caused the belt to become loose like that. So I think I'm gonna wipe off the little bit of grease that I did put on here and just leave it how it is and just tighten it down, because honestly I think that's how it goes. I don't think you're supposed to put any grease on these things. Sorry about the camera, but I got no way of holding it. I don't feel like going to get a tripod, so I just got it between my legs right now. And I did remove the grease on here, and look at how it moves now. See that? That's how it should move. Nice and free, and it could do its job. Okay, so I got the tensioner pulley all torqued down. It's nice and snug, and look at this. It still moves freely, just how it should. So I'm really happy with that. We are not going to have that issue again where the belt was loose. That was a recipe for a disaster, and something as simple as putting some red grease inside of there caused it to gunk up over time. So I got the belt in place. I have not put the tensioner on it yet, but I'm just checking things. As you can see, the two arrows are matching up right there. This mark lines up with that mark. Then if we come from over here, it's hard to see, but you can see those two marks are lining up. I know it looks like it's a little bit off, but that's just a paint marker that the previous person put on there. Trust me, it's dead on. Okay, and on the right side of the belt, no slack, no slack, no slack. And on the tensioner side is where we have all our slack. So everything's looking really good to me. The timing marks look like everything's dead on. We got all our tension on the side that we want to have tension on. Let's go ahead and put the tensioner on it, pull the pin. Alright, so I did one final check of the timing up top, on the bottom, just for my sanity. So everything's looking good. Let's go ahead and pull the pin out now. Where is that thing? I didn't have my weighties today. There we go. Alright, so there we go, nice and snug on this side and this side. Of course, I kept the pressure tester on the system, and you can see we are pretty much still right where I left it. And of course I would stop if I saw a drip coming out the water pump, but no, everything's been good. So I'm 100% confident that the water pump is not going to leak and that the timing is correct. And I think I'm just about done for tonight. I'm tired. It's like 8:30 p.m. I just want to get the actual timing part of this done today, and then tomorrow it's just, you know, full throttle ahead and just knock it out. All the hard work is done, so I'm happy. I could rest at night, because trust me, If I tried to go to sleep tonight without putting this timing belt on and making sure everything was 100% and that the water pump was 100%, I probably wouldn't be able to sleep. So it's now the next day, and I got a few more things put back together. Got the timing cover put on it, got the new engine mount. Put together all of this stuff right here. Got the ECM plugged in, everything is bolted down. And I went ahead and reconnected the battery just for the sake of starting the engine and make sure everything's okay with the timing belt. Let's cross our fingers that it doesn't blow up. I don't have to put on air box because this one does not have a mass airflow sensor. I don't have the serpentine belt connected, so we're not worried about that. We just want the engine to start and sound good. So I think I'm good to go after looking over everything. Let's go ahead and crank it up. It's always a nervous part doing this. Alright, fire in the hole. And it's running. Nothing sounds weird. Engine's running nice and smooth. Of course, the battery light is on because there's no serpentine belt on it. We know everything with the timing belt is good. Now I can take the battery out once again. We're gonna go ahead and change this thermostat. I still have to drain all the water out of the system that I put in it. Alright, so I'm trying to get the belt back on it, but I'm having trouble because that tensioner does not want to budge. I had trouble getting the belt off, and it seems to be more troublesome trying to get the belt back on it. This tensioner is supposed to compress so you could get the belt back on it. It doesn't want to. It's very stiff. Even if I get my longest breaker bar and try to force it to compress, I probably get, I don't know, maybe like a 1/4 inch out of it. That's not enough to get this belt on. I think the tensioner is no good, and I looked on AutoZone's website. That's like $150, $200 part. That's not gonna happen. So now I'm scratching my head on what I'm going to do here, because I need to get this belt on, but we're not gonna pay $200 for a part because they don't want to sell you just the tensioner alone. They want to sell you the whole pulley system that's attached to it, this whole thing. Alright, so I ended up getting the belt on. This is really a two-person job. I had my fiance on the top. See, because the tensioner down there has two 19mm studs where you could grab onto to kind of pivot it. So she was pushing to the rear on the top stud with the breaker bar. Oh, don't die, trip hazard. And I was on the bottom 19mm stud with another breaker bar pushing in the opposite direction, and that's how we were able to compress the piston and get the belt on. What a freaking nightmare. It seemed almost impossible just with one person doing it. I mean, you gotta be super strong. I got these Mickey Mouse arms. I mean, these things are as good as noodles. So, but good thing is it's done. Got the belt on it. So now I can focus on other things. So with the belt on it, I went ahead and started up the engine once again, and still runs good, nice and smooth. The battery light turned off because now the alternator is charging, power steering's working. So the next thing I'm gonna do is let's go ahead and replace the thermostat now. And once I get this knocked out, that's pretty much the last thing I have to do on this car. But he does have that leak on the axle, so I'm gonna see what's involved on changing that. My friend's paying a lot of money to get all this work done, and if it's not too much trouble, I'll just go ahead and change out that seal for him. We'll pull out the CV shaft, change out the seal on the transmission. No extra charge. Hopefully we could get that done, but let's see how much work is involved. Alright, so as you can see, got the old thermostat out. It's actually sitting, where is it? Oh, it's right there. It's been a while. It's been a few hours. And guess what? My flash is now guaranteed to work because I went out and got a new phone. What? Were you expecting more? That's all I got. All I got is $40 on me. Give me that shit back. So I'm all done with the thermostat. Everything's put back together. Here goes the old one right here. We also got a brand new gasket for it. Now, I was going to fill up the system how I normally do, you know, just put my no spill funnel right here. But then I remembered this thing that came into my Astro tool. And I've never used this before. People keep telling me to use it, and I've never tried it before. But I figure, you know what? Let's give it a go. First time for everything, right? So I got this thing connected. Connect the air hose. Open up the valve. Open up this valve. let it pull vacuum. Now I'm not sure where it's supposed to pull vacuum from. There might be instructions over there somewhere in the kit, but ain't nobody got time for that. So all I did was brought it right up to where it meets the yellow. I figure yellow is danger to manifold. So I stopped it right there, and it's holding vacuum. So if it holds vacuum, that means it's going to hold the coolant. Means you're not going to have a leak. Once you close the valve, and if this vacuum started to decay over time, then you have a leak somewhere in the system. So at this point, I'm going to get the hose. It looks like, as you can see, I've never touched this before, so that thing is absolutely brand new inside of there. So I'm going to grab that hose. I suppose it connects right here, and then you put the other end in a new gallon of antifreeze. Let's see how it works out. So I was actually surprised to see that the hose in the kit actually has a quick connect fitting already on it. Okay, Astro, you're on your top game. I see where you're coming from. That's what's up. So we got a brand new gallon of antifreeze 50-50 mix, and I know some people are gonna be, you know, keyboard warriors about the green stuff going in a Honda, but that's what came out of it. This whole cooling system is already filled with the green stuff. I'm not going to change it, okay? That's how it came in. That's what it's getting. All right, so I think at this point, I got the tube all the way at the bottom. I could feel it hitting. So at this point, I think all I have to do is open up this valve. As you can see, our needle is still exactly where I left it. It is not decaying. So once we open up this valve, it should start, you know, doing a silly straw action. Let's find out. Ooh, look at that. That's freaking crazy. Now, of course, from what I saw online, you have to make sure you close the valve before you empty out your entire gallon. You don't want this thing to suck up any air. I ended up opening another gallon and just adding it into this one to make sure we don't run out. And that's it. It is completely done. You can see we are down to 0 right there. So it's done pulling in as much coolant as it can. So the coolant wasn't completely topped off. I did have to add just a little bit, but that's perfectly fine. Topped it right off, put the cap on it. So tomorrow I'll turn it on, and according to the internet, that's how it works, and it should be all set. It's like 10 p.m. The reason why I came out here to do a thermostat so late, I wasn't in the garage all this time. I was out doing other things, but I decided to step out here and take care of the thermostat because I got a few jobs lined up tomorrow morning, and I want to be able to get this van out of the garage tomorrow morning so I'm not working outside. The van has been running for about, I don't know, 25-30 minutes. It got up to temperature and the heat started working. No bleeding process or anything. So I'm really happy to see that that system we did last night actually worked. And what I'm going to do is, I already drove it around the block like twice. The engine's super smooth, it drives fine. What I'm going to do is completely let this get up to temperature, and then I'll shut it off for a few hours, let it completely cool down, and I'll open up the radiator cap and see if it needs to be topped off, and that'll be it. The final thing I'm going to do here is the cabin air filter. I forgot to order one, so we're just gonna have to like stop at AutoZone or something. I pulled this one out already. It's completely filthy, so we're gonna get a new cabin air filter. As far as that CV shaft and the seal on the transmission, it doesn't look like I'm gonna be doing that while this van is here right now. It's not as straightforward as, you know, just disconnect the CV from the steering knuckle and just pull it out. No, it has a intermediate shaft and all that stuff. It's the long CV shaft. The one on the driver's side is the short one. That's a bit too much trouble for me right now. I have a lot of work going on, so I'm not going to be able to squeeze this in right now. But let's change out that cabin air filter. This Honda's all set. It drives pretty good. No leaks underneath it, so I'm sure the owner's going to be happy. He could take it on a road trip. He's going to be leaving in a few days real soon, so the van will be ready just in time. So that's it for this one. Let's I don't know how long this video is, but either thanks for watching and catch you guys next time, or let's move on to the next car.